Yeah. Yeah, the I Ching. Of course, you know, who has time to read the I Ching? But I just wondered, just as we were sitting here, yeah, take forever to read that.
Is there like you're looking for a quote on creativity?
No. I was just centering myself.
Oh, nice.
And I don't know, it was sitting there looking at me. Usually there's a picture of Patti Smith on it. So I can, like a little postcard with Patti.
He's talking to you.
And I just thought I haven't even thrown the I Ching in 10 years. I used to do it every day. Primarily because I didn't understand it. And it threw what little fragment of a linear brain I had to start with into complete disarray. Because it was this metaphorical language that, you know, was bigger. It was a big language, and you had to swim in there. Yeah. You had to swim in there, and then at some point it would kind of make sense. Like I'd feel directed by it in some very primal, creative way.
Is that the same as the Tao?
No, it's not. The Tao is Lao Tzu. The Tao Te Ching, and that is like the fundamental essence of life. Yeah. I think.
I agree.
Yeah, it's all there. And one of my favorite things from Lao Tzu is know the masculine, but keep to the feminine. You know, it's like no action, but keep to the receptive. And I pretty much lived that. It was really exciting to see this amazing sage, because everything in Western culture is pushing us into the masculine, pushing us into achievement, pushing us into thinking. And I hate to go against the grain, but everything in me was pulling me out of linear thinking, out of the known, the achievement orientation, and into myself, or into the nothing, what I love about creativity is it puts us, creativity by nature is originality, and originality brings us to origin. So in a sense, every breath we take is a creative act, but every time we dip in there and come back out with a voice, be it through dance, be it through paint, be it through cooking, poetry, whatever it is, we are in dialogue with the great mystery. We are in dialogue with that amazing grace that moves us all. At some point I realized, having been brought up in a relatively religious way, and having decided that most people who, the icons in that world are saints, and saints always die horrible deaths. And so one doesn't really want to use them as a model for existence. But I forget what I was going to say, but it had, I'm sure, something to do with spirituality being, for me, taking a deep breath. Like, it is a spiritual event and to go with it, to go with it in the inhale, to go with it in the exhale, and to keep that full circle moving. And I think what has happened in Western civilization is that we, by dismembering or splitting us from body from spirit, that we created the void out of which, and where you have to struggle to be creative, you have to struggle to be an artist. It's not just a given that that we're in a body, and where else, regardless of your art form, where is it going to happen if not in the body? That's the grounding. So I guess all of my work has been trying to embody the spirit. And then on the way to that, I discovered that the heart was not embodied either. So to embody my emotions, to embody my heart, to embody my fears, my angers, my sorrows, my joy, my compassion, to embody my mind, to move into a place of knowing and not thinking, a place of intuitive grace, and that is where all creativity comes from. It is from the marriage of instinct and intuition, and these two energies are best nurtured in a freestyle form, whether it's freestyle writing, freestyle dancing, freestyle painting. It's like we can take on form, but at some point it becomes a diving board into the language of being, into the language of existence, into our right to party, our right to be here, our right to be expressive, to be the only one, to be the original, to have this deep dialogue with the great mystery. Yeah. And kids, like we live in a culture where art is not really necessarily supported. So that if you have a vision, you will struggle. If you have a voice, you will struggle. And to just have to feed, fund, and nourish your own art form is for most artists the great test. The great test. Mine came from love. My work came from, I was 16 when I started the 5 Rhythms, and you could say I didn't know anything, so I had nothing to get in my way. I hadn't been to college yet, so I had no big ideas. I had no theories, and all I had was that I really loved the people that I was sitting with. For the most part, they were children, because I began my work with kids who were blind or deaf or ordinary kids, disadvantaged kids, all kinds of kids, every kind of kid, and then elders. So I spent my whole years putting myself through university working with the bookends, working with kids and working with elders. And my job, as I would have called it, was to keep things moving, to redirect the energy so that it was moving in a creative direction. Like the energy's there, and it's going to go in one way or another. And so I felt like it was my job to keep it in alignment with change, keep changing, and so that there was no time for boredom and there was only time for fascination, because I think that that's the key for me, is to turn people on to, I always ask people, is there anybody in the room who doesn't want to be fascinated? Nobody could ever raise their hand. And then I just simply say, be fascinated, and begin with your hand. Begin with the movement of your shoulder, and do it as an investigative journalist, like, what is it? What's going on? How does it move? How do I want to move? Because at best, at the end of the day, we want to be moved, and we want to be moved in our own style. And I think when people have that, and it doesn't belong to fashion, it belongs to every aspect of us. When we have that, when we have our rhythm, and we have our style of being here, we're joyful. We're joyful. Other than that, we're looking for it. And we need to help kids. We need to give them some sense of security, some sense of grounding in their own creative process. Some sense of seeing life as energy and change, so that no matter where they're trapped for the moment, in a family that's dysfunctional, or in a school, or like these kids who've just committed suicide. And I remember what it was like to go through the 6th grade and the 7th grade. There was a lot of meanness there to survive that. And I think that kids really need to exist in a world without judgment in terms of their creativity. I remember when I was 4 years old and I was in the French hospital in San Francisco getting my tonsils out. And they brought me a coloring book. And so I was coloring. And I still remember this woman, I think a nurse, coming to me and going, "Pants aren't green. People don't wear green pants." And, and I like, my little crayon froze in space. But I said, my people do. And it was kind of like, who decides?
Exactly.
I was just before my time, that's all. Who decides what we wear? Who decides all of this? And that criticism and judgment at the level of kid, in the kingdom of kids, is not healthy. They need freedom. Freedom of what we're teaching in at the Farnham House in New Haven is to use the 5 rhythms as a perspective. You know, some days I'm flowing. Some days I'm really focused. Some days I'm really fluid. Some days I'm really feeling really free. And some days I'm feeling very funky, you know, very like all that's happening at one time. In the word mojo means soul. You know, it's when you have your mojo. And I think that education is meant to serve the soul or the mojo of each person. It's meant to really inspire and not just put a bunch of ideas in. I remember teaching high school in San Francisco during the Vietnam War. Most of my kids were going to go off to visit Vietnam. And so they were I took over this homeroom, and the kids would get up and they'd go, and then they'd sit down every day like little robots. Finally I said, "What are you saying?" And they looked at me like I was crazy. "Well, we're saying the Pledge of Allegiance." And I said, "Oh, say it for me." Not one kid in the room knew the words. They were like seniors in high school. They had been saying it so long it didn't matter. So I said, "Great, in this class, how we will pledge allegiance is each of you will have a day to get up and speak to the flag. And the rest of us will listen and with respect, regardless of your point of view." Because we had kids in there who were in the ROTC. We had kids in there whose brothers had died in Vietnam. We had kids in there who were anti-war activists. We had, you know, everything was in the room. And I said, to speak, you know, that's art for me. That's living art, to take the poetry of the moment, to find that the voice that's connected to the heart, that's connected to the feet, and to be able to stand in it and serve with it and just be a catalyst, you know, be the person who shakes up the room then. Go ahead, yell at it, do whatever. Because what is respect if it's not truth? Your truth. And what is truth? Truth is, you know, it's changing all the time. So I think that art is it's the soul food that each person needs to have. Yeah. That's why when I'm teaching movement, which I say as opposed to dance, because dance is an art form and movement is a life form. It's like teaching movement. Movement is medicine, it's meditation, it's everything. But it's, you're not teaching it. You're just creating the space for it to happen. And every form that I teach, every exercise, every focus is really on bringing people to that totally freestyle moment where they're just making themselves up from scratch. And nobody could ever choreograph it. And it's so fascinating to watch somebody fall in love and not get back up. You know, to watch somebody fall in love feet first. To watch somebody fall in love and find the drama, the passion, the energy of existence. And for me, that has primarily happened through the dance and through theater, but a very physical form of theater. It's like taking on your power. But it's not. It's also, for me, I know what I was going to say earlier was, for me, God is the dance. And in other words, God is that part that is the great mystery that keeps everything moving. So we don't know anything else, but we do know that wherever we began, we're still moving. And so my point of view is to align myself with that motion and change. And then in there, that's co-creating with divine intelligence. That's like when we drop in and disappear and get out of the way of that great dance, we stop manipulating it and judging it and comparing it and competing with other people with it and doing all the ego things. When we get the ego out of the way and backseat it, so to speak, and let the soul take over, take my hand, take my mouth, take my eyes, my ears, my belly button, let my soul take my feet, and just be moved, and know that I'm going right along with something that is so much bigger than me that all I can do is swim. All I can do is dance. And that's providing that space for kids, I think, is the most important thing we can do. And I think, like in the 5 rhythm practice, what we're doing is, in this formless form or way of freestyle movement, there's this place where we are physically, emotionally, and mentally coming into unity. And for me, that is the soul. When the mind, the body, and the heart are one giant yes, one giant no, where they're all together. And that's when we have soul power. And that soul power, it feeds on spirit. And what do we do to be spiritual? Well, we try to get out of the way of allowing the breath to move through us, because most people are breathing to their neck. So that means that we've made some big decision to be more powerful than the universe, or that universal motion. And that's like a little boy putting his finger in a dike or something that I heard about when I was a kid, holding back the force of life itself. So when we get in that, and so everything that we do, one of the things, the reasons that I have put invested my life energy in movement and in being a catalyst for movement is that I have faith in it. It's like Rilke says, I have faith in nights. I have faith in everything in the movement, and that it will rearrange us. It will reinvent us. It will recharge and revitalize us. And then whatever gifts or art forms that want to come through us will be infused with this life energy. And what more could we actually want than that? So that's, do you have something you want to add?
Yeah, I think that was amazing.
You have some quote in your book, I just love it. It's like, you want to take people to that place of ecstasy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, that was a thing for me, was that I was a dancer that had a bad ski accident, and they said I'd never dance again. So it was like taking the rug out from under me. And I didn't dance for a year. And I watched I was still teaching, so I was watching everybody else do something they didn't want to do, and I was desperate to do. Like when I was working with adults now. And it was one night, the drums were there, and I just could not dance. I could not dance. I started to move, and I just followed the beat. Is a great lover. The beat is an amazing lover. And I just gave myself over to it, surrendered myself 100% to it. And out of that, this whole path came. But it carried me into this egoless, timeless state of being, where it's like nothing was happening, but nothing was electric. Nothing was, there was no drug, there was nothing that could compete with it. And of course, all I wanted to do was take everybody else there. Who wouldn't want that experience? And you can't get it in a pill. It doesn't come in a drug. It comes in surrender. And in order to surrender, we have to be willing to let go of everything that's in the way. Have to let go of our stress and our boredom, have to let go of our thinking, have to let go of all our judgments and criticisms. Everything has to go. We have to let go of all the emotional baggage we're carrying, fear from 10 years ago, anger from 20 years. We have to let everything go. We have to be able to give it all up in order to go to that incredible, ecstatic place. And once there, it's like God's drug. You just want it. You want to go back. You can't help it. You want to go back. And it's like being a surfer, because you never know in the dance when you're going to get there. But you show up and you move, and someday the big wave comes and it just carries you. And maybe it just comes for a few seconds. Or maybe it comes, for a nice, long, juicy period of a few hours. You don't want to go grocery shopping in ecstasy. I don't know if I did the kids service here, but one of the things that we're working on with the kids now is how to use percussion to focus, to listen and to focus. We have all these kids who are, well, they call it ADD. There's always a title for everything. But actually, they're just enormously distracted and overwhelmed by the amount of input. And by rhythm is our mother tongue. So rhythm is a universal language, and it's something that you fall into, and we're finding that to have a great impact. And then out of that, you move from that base, that solid base of having your feet on earth. My job has been really easy. It's like help people put their feet on earth and listen to the, dance on the skin of the Great Mother, and listen like an animal, an instinctive dance, a dance that's connected to the earth. And then to release the hips, which releases the heart, to feel the dance. And then to let go of the thinking head and go into the great, fantastic, intuitive mind, where all kinds of, we don't even know how many gifts kids have until we lead them to this place where their huge heart and their huge mind and their huge, huge physical presence can give birth to the soul. And then you have kids who, like sometimes I'll have a parent say, well, my kid, he wants to change instruments. I'm not changing another instrument. Last year it was a cello, this year it's a violin, next year it's a drum. And I say, go with it. How do you know your kid's not going to be a conductor or a composer? How do we know? Like, trusting the intuitive intelligence of children is a real key. And parents battle with this all the time. We have an idea of where that kid should go to school. We have an idea what that kid needs. And we've lost that kind of faith. And there is a unique and an original being there, and the only one that will ever happen like this being. And that it has come here with a certain intelligence, a certain intel from the bigger picture. It's a representative from the big government. And that when we have this kind of respect for each other and this kind of respect for our children, where we can really get behind wherever their creativity is taking. Yes, it could change 1,000 times in the 4th grade. But who said change? Who said change isn't good? It's like, oh, well, they can't make a commitment. Well, the thing is, we're not looking for that kind of commitment. We're looking for engagement and passion. We're looking for when that child has hit the right note or the right space or the right art form, nothing will take them away. And it just could take a while to find it. And also just to have a way to express the pure terror of being alive. Just all the scary things and all the emotions of childhood, the heart of childhood. To have a place where you can move in your passion, not have to language it, and not have to say things you don't mean, but to say, it's okay, you can be angry, show me your anger, show me your angry dance, show me your sad dance. It's okay to allow the heart to be part of the story, part of the movement, part of the grace of living. I think that's important for kids.
I wanted you all to say something about how creativity is or can make a difference to the world now.
Oh, creativity for the world now. Well, considering we live in a world that's primarily lost its soul, lost its feet, lost its connection between its heart and its hips. A lot of sad stories wouldn't have occurred if that connection were real. That's lost a sense of it's not only okay, but the reason why we're here is to be real, to be authentic. And that the further we have gotten from this, the further we have gotten into mediocrity or imitation as a lifestyle, the further we've gotten from the unified field, the further we've gotten from the part of us that is what I call a tribal individual. I know there's been a lot of political theorists and philosophical theorists about, the individual versus the collective. But for me, what's interesting is when they are one, like the tribal individual. And that this is what the world needs. Like it's so clear that we are all one. And I have always found working in groups that the harder question is, yes, we are one. We are all in the body. An earthquake will immediately level us. Not going to just, we'll just take the blondes or, nature has a way of constantly reminding us of our sameness. And so we don't need any help in that respect, really. We really need help in, we do need a bit of help. I'll contradict myself there. But we need a lot of help in recognizing our differences, in taking responsibility for our own difference, for our own life, for our own voice, for our own, style, for everything. Because then we can feel joy. Then we can feel we have something to contribute. Because a good portion of the people are walking around wounded because they feel they don't have a purpose or a place. And so it all goes back to that, that art is sacred. Art is putting us in touch with the creation, with the creator, whatever that is, the source, however we want to name it. And the language of existence itself, and then what is my voice in that language? What is it that I came here to give to that bigger circle? So the world, as people, like a lot of people, the big problem, as I see it, it doesn't matter what country you're in, and it doesn't matter what culture. What matters is that we each take responsibility for having an ego, and for being a soul. And that knowing the self, as Socrates says, what he just did a rap in 2 words: know thyself, count. And that's it. Once you have mastered who you are not, then you can be. So we do need to find a way of distancing ourselves from the thinking head tripper. The one part of us that is always separating ourselves through judgment, through comparison, through criticism, through planning. It's just an endless little composite. Not too endless. It's very predictable. The ego is the very predictable part of us. And if we wonder about that, all we have to do is ask our family or our friends, what do you think my ego is? They will tell us. We're usually the last person in town to know, our own ego. And that's dramatic. We need to know that. We need to know, I have a predilection toward judgment, or I have I'm always comparing, so that we see that's the red flag that's going up, that says that's taking me out of the Tao. That's taking me out of my flow. That's taking me out of my rhythm. And that as we begin to realize that what's in the back of that is our very own soul, that part of us is fascinating. That part of us is fluid. That part of us is instinctive, intuitive, imaginative, and inspired. And we don't spend enough time talking to that in each other, supporting that in each other. Oh, what happened to you today? Oh, I have this pain and that ache, and this person said that, and that person. we don't spend as much time in seeking in the cathedral of bones for the poetry of oneness, or even of anything. We don't investigate each other. We don't honor. This is a very sad thing for me. In fact, each of us comes somewhat, where we picked it up, I don't know, but we have this little thing, it's called a buzz killer. And if anybody around us gets like too arty, too creative, too happy, out comes a buzz killer. Oh, you got a part in a movie? Well, I hope they make it. I hope you don't end up on the cutting floor. It's just a little reminder that shit happens, and probably to you, but and so there's this downer fluid that we come with, and I think the world needs warriors of the heart, of the people who are committed to genius. And what is genius? Genius is the ability to create from nothing. But since nothing and everything is the seed of its apparent opposite, nothing is everything, so therefore, inside of nothing, you have access to everything. So why be something? How boring. Why not be all and be everything? Not, if somebody says, oh, you're mean, or you're this, oh yeah, maybe, probably, I'm that too. And just keep going and not be so devastated by this ego monster. The ego is the big problem of the entire world. One of the things I love very much about Obama, and Obama, like me and like all of us, has an ego. We all do. We come with, we don't come with it, by the way, but we are catapulted into its embrace at a very early age. And that's what I want to, and then we become, it's absolutely predictable what we will do in every given situation. Like I said, ask your family, ask your friends, what's my ego like? They'll tell you. And then we see that, okay, unpredictable. I mean, if the ego is totally repetitive and predictable, then I want to be unpredictable. So I practice being unpredictable in the dance. And, I'll tell you, the Albert Einstein School of Medicine has done a study. They wanted to see what cognitive or physical skills could reduce the risk of dementia and Alzheimer's. And they studied everything cognitively, and they got no results. They studied everything physically: golf, running, walking, swimming, blah, 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 dancing, forms. And nothing made a big difference. Swimming made a cardiovascular difference, but freestyle dance made a 75% reduced risk. And why? Because in the freestyle dance, you do not know where you're going to step next. You are in alignment with the Creator. You are art. You're not even making art or doing art. You are living art. And that's why kids need to have that boogie moment where they just get up and move. However and how do you feel? Let's move that. Oh, Joe's feeling angry, let's do that, the monster dance. Let's, give space for the movement to transform suffering into art.
Wow, I just introduce yourself on the camera.
Oh, yeah. My name is Gabrielle Roth. If rhythm is our mother tongue, it's taking us to the universals then. It's taking us into a universal field. And we can feel a connection to everybody who's ever moved on this earth. Because everybody who's ever moved on this earth is a pattern, an energy pattern. And by creating one, or just sinking in, and we also feel the empty space. We feel how do we find our place? How do I find my place? Well, in a rhythm circle, you can feel it because you hear where the empty space is. You don't need to do what somebody else is doing. You can feel that empty space and add your little pulse. And yet we're all in the same tempo. We're all playing the same song. So it is a great teacher. Percussion is great. Percussion has been my amazing teacher.
I love just the whole process of surrendering.
Yeah.
You know, just surrendering over and allowing. It's just like the intuition takes over, and just it's like it's ecstasy.
Yeah, it is. It is. I have to give you some music. Do you have it?
No, but I need some.
Yeah, I'll give you some. We have so many albums, and
Oh yeah, I know. I was gonna say some of your rhythmic.
you might want to. You might even be able to find. It's self-cinematic. You know, our music, because it doesn't have a world. It's a world beat without a world. And when you're doing a film like this, you might want to have like that rumble of percussion under there, but not necessarily African or Indian or Brazilian.
Right.
But so you might find something in there that you can use. And you might not, but it's available to you if you. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the thing I think about our music, and I'm not trying to push my music, is that it doesn't, people aren't, like if you hear hip hop, I mean, already you have I like hip hop, I hate hip hop, or that's hip hop. And so I think where our music serves in these kinds of situations is there's no hook. There's no, it's just there. It's just there. Yeah, it's not specific in that way. So you guys are flying back today?
Flying back.
Yeah.
Yes.
AFTRA, Union on the Spirituality of Creativity and Acting.
Oh wow.
I'm very excited about that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I will definitely send you an invite just by chance.
Looking at the beautiful turquoise sea, I thought of this moment when I was on an airplane with this young girl, and she was Lola Schnabel, and she was drawing. I said, wow, Lola, you are an amazing artist. And she said, thank God I have an inner life. And I realized, oh my God, that's it. What creativity connects us to our inner life. And that's the most important thing we can give a kid, is a sense of self, a sense of authenticity, a sense of the power of being who they are and expressing exactly what they're feeling. That's it for them.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank God I have an inner life.
Yeah, I know. That was such a cool way of saying it. She's like 15. She goes, oh, thank God I have an inner life.
Wisdom.
Yeah.
So